It's a wonderful good afternoon and welcome to Sportslife here on CBC Television today on a Monday where we get to discuss, of course, football, and we talk everything football in the next 45 minutes. And of course, I am your host, Professor Lance, together with my usual host or my usual guest, Mr. Ludaka. Welcome to the program.
It's indeed a lovely afternoon, Nancy, as we look at the qualifiers which were played over the weekend in terms of African football.
Okay. Um, what do we have laid out in terms of history before we go exactly to what was happening in the World Cup qualifiers concerning the World Cup, the African teams that have so far managed to qualify to the World Cup? Which African teams are those? Which African teams do we have on the list?
Of course, we have teams like Egypt that have qualified for the World Cup before.
Okay.
Not forgetting Cameroon, they've been there on many occasions.
Okay.
Nigeria, the Spy Girls have represented Zambia, of course, on more than 3 occasions at the World Championship.
Okay.
Morocco, of course, during the France 98, most of you remember that the player called Dihaji and they played at the France 98 World Cup and they were really excited to go on with. Not forgetting South Africa, they've been to the World Cup twice as well. Okay. France 98, 2002, Japan, Korea. The supplies makers were Senegal, who became the first, West African side to qualify ahead of giants in their group at that particular time because they were paired with Cameroon, another team that have been to the World Cup on many occasions. So they made it in 2002. Then we had also Togo that qualified to the World Cup. In Southern region, there are only 2 teams that have qualified to the World Cup. We are talking about South Africa and Angola. Okay. South Africa, yes, they did it twice. Angola once in 2006. They were there. Not forgetting Tunisia. Of course, Algeria have also qualified for the World Cup. Ivory Coast have done it now 2 times in a row. They were there during the 2010 World Cup in South Africa. So 2014 we saw them also. So Ghana, they've been the outstanding team because Ghana since Germany 2006 they've been qualifying for the World Cup. They've been there 2006 Germany. So we saw them in South Africa also playing 2010 when they came close to secure the semi-final place. Okay. Again during the 2014 in Brazil they were there. So I should say at this point in time the most outstanding team that has performed wonders for Africa is Ghana.
Oh, okay, that is very exciting in terms of the teams that have qualified before for the World Cup, in terms of African teams that have represented the whole continent of Africa in the previous World Cups that which we have had. And Mr. Ludaka, right now we've got games that are being played, or the games that have been played concerning the World Cup qualifiers when it comes to Africa teams as much as it is concerned. And just last week we had a game where we saw South Africa, of course, beating Angola 3-1. Any analysis on that game?
Of course, this time around we thought maybe this game was going to produce out of sparks more so that Angola they've been excited to go with in terms of African football, Southern Africa in particular, but they were not able to put up a good performance against South Africa. Okay. So Afana, they seem to be on the right path now because it's been a long time when they last qualified for the World Cup. Since Japan and Korea, they've missed out on World Cups, though they had the chance to host the 2010, which gave them chance to play at the World Cup. But since then, they've never made it to the World Cup, and they feel it's the right time to go to the World Cup because they're used now. Us Zambians were still chasing for that lucky, but they've been used to qualify to the World Cup. Angola too, they've been to the World Cup, so we thought maybe this was going to be an interesting encounter. But look at the number of goals which were scored. Mm-hmm. Of course, it was an easy game for South Africa.
Well, okay, so this was, in short, we can say this was a local derby because Angola is from Southern Africa, and as well as South Africa is also from Southern Africa, meaning it was a local derby. And these 2 teams, can you say that when paired together they play almost the same type of football? Maybe there's a difference in the kind of football that they play.
I would say there's a they smell it in the kind of football they play, in the sense that if you look at the number of games they played in terms of COSAF and other games where they played together, it was South Africa that emerged winner, but with a narrow margin. But this time around, it's like they were able to score more goals. So from the things like South Africa now, they've dominated Angola, and Angola seem to be underdog when to come to meet South Africa. Though there's a rivalry which shows that it's not an easy game each time when they play, but most fixtures seem to favor South Africa.
Well, okay, we have, of course, we managed to get a clip of the game in terms of the goals that were scored, and we'll show them just in a synopsis of time. And whilst we are showing it, Mr. Ludaka, can we talk more about this game? When the game was in its early opening, of course, in the first half, we saw South Africa, of course, not being too sharp in terms of their defense. Their defense was bad, and of course, Angola had to take advantage of that, and they were the first scorers of the goal in terms of as far as it is that qualifier was concerned. Of course, the goal was scored in the 16th minute. The Angolans were the first ones to score the goal before South Africa managed to equalize, of course, in the same first half. What went wrong in terms of the strategy or tactics of the coach for Angola, such that they could allow 3 more goals after them being the ones to take the lead first?
Indeed, like I said, the games, I think it matters most with the game approach. The way you approach the game, and think the results also follow suit. If the approach is bad, definitely even you get punished, even if you score first. Football is played 90 minutes, and within 90 minutes you expect a team to get goals. So if you don't play well during the same 90 minutes, things can change. We have seen games that were 4-0 lead before halftime. Come second half, we saw the team leveling the scores, and the other team went on to win the game. One good example is Burkina Faso, DR Congo during the Burkina Faso 98 championship, where DR Congo came from behind from 3-0 down. They went on to win the game 4-3. So in football, everything is possible. I think South Africa, they were quick to look at a number of mistakes that made when they considered the goal. And having worked on those mistakes, Angolans, I think they were too excited. They thought maybe they were already through to the second round. So they got punished because of not working on their mistakes.
But before the second half, of course, we saw South Africa leading by 2-1. When they went on break, do you think that the coach didn't punch in much more emphasis on his players when it comes to the Angolan side? Do you think that the coach didn't do his part when they went on that technical break, or maybe I don't know, maybe there was something between the players and the coach?
Of course, the other advantage that Sheikh Mashava, the coach for South Africa, could have worked out is the strategy that they should play and throughout attack formation. You see, most teams, when they get a winning goal, they relax. They introduce the Mourinho type of formation, so they defend. That's how they get punished. But if you look at South Africa, they kept on pressurizing Angolan defense, and this what made the Angolans made the game difficult for Angolans to come back and maybe equalize. Because at some point South Africa, they were throughout, they were going attack after attack, which gave an Angolan defense under pressure. At the same time, they could not go in front as quick as possible because they realized that they were going to concede more goals. By so doing, South Africa, they kept the winning mentality, and that's how they killed the game for Angolans.
Well, okay, that was, of course, the first leg of the qualifiers, and tomorrow on Tuesday we are going to see Angola, of course, taking on South Africa again in terms of the second leg. Any prediction? Do you think South Africa will still stick to the win that they have, or the lead that they have by 3-1? They will still stick to that and be able to qualify, or maybe we'll see Angola coming back into the game?
Mind you, we're talking about home and away games, and some teams they're good at using home ground advantage, but some teams, I think they are used to play good games each time when they find the winning formula. So okay. I feel for Angola, they still have a huge mountain to climb. Okay. We are talking about they have to score 2 goals. If they beat South Africa 2-0, of course they'll be through. But again, it's a huge mountain because they have to score. At the same time, South Africa will not just sit down and say, hey, let's just defend our 3-1 victory we recorded a few days ago. I think they'll go in for a kill. They'll go in for a goal which is going to kill the game. I did mention like for Zambian game that if Zambia they will relax and say let's defend the goal we scored in Sudan, then we'll be able to qualify the second round. Definitely it was going to be very difficult for them. I feel that South Africa too, they shouldn't think like that. They shouldn't think like, no, we are already through, so all we need is to defend. They'll get punished, and it's easy to reverse the scores and then to see Angola going through to the second round.
Okay, so what are you telling the people out there? Are you saying that Angola will be able to come back, or we see South Africa going through?
It depends the game approach. Like I mentioned, if Shakes Mashava, the man who is probably known as a magician in South African football, if you go in for a defensive formation because they are thinking of 3-1 victory they recorded a few days ago, then the game will be very difficult for them. Angola will be able to come back and cause an upset. But if South Africa will go out and attack like the way they did in the game, just been watching those highlights, yes. I can assure that South Africa, they are heading for yet another World Cup. If lucky, will be with them when we come to the group stage of this championship.
Well, okay. Coming away from that game, of course, let's take a look at the game between Swaziland and Nigeria, where, of course, we saw Nigeria being the favorites when it came to that game as it was played. We saw, of course, everyone else was putting his head, or everybody was betting on Nigeria, saying Nigeria is going to win, looking at the fact that Swaziland has never been better in football. But we had some shocking results, as it had happened that Nigeria and Swaziland, they drew. It was a goalless draw. Anything for the Nigerians?
Of course, Nigerians really were really let down in this game, because most people would have thought Nigeria were favourite and they're going to bash Swaziland with a big margin. But football keeps on changing, Nancy. This time around, if you look at the team that used to be underdogs in the history of African football, they are no longer underdogs. You are not only talking about Swaziland, you are also talking about Comoros, the team that we taught football a few years ago under Bonnet Dalio. Remember, we beat them home and away with a big margin. But this is a team that also caused an upset over the weekend, holding one of the best teams in Africa. Well, so okay. It wasn't really a surprise. Teams are now, applying new methodology of football, and you see people like Jans and many other people that FIFA has empowered with a knowledge of modern football. They've been going from one country to another to teach the various countries about the modern, knowledge of football. So I feel they are no underdogs at this point in time. They are no underdogs at all.
Okay, just there in the highlights, of course, we see Nigeria struggling in terms of scoring or firing blanks at the goal. And we saw the likes of John Obi Mikel, of course, the veteran, and we saw the likes of Musa not being able to find the back of the net, and it was quite bad for the coach of Nigeria, looking at the fact that he thought they are going to do much more better than the Swazilands. And when we look at the stats, Swaziland had even performed much more better than Nigeria.
Indeed, Nigeria, they really let down, because the number of players you've mentioned, the players that are playing better football for better European leagues than those who are country featuring for Swaziland. And John Mikel has been with Chelsea for many years. We talk of Musa. He took football by storm for past 2 seasons, and he's still one of the most outstanding players in terms of Russian football. So I feel that people were expecting Nigeria to do something, but football has changed, and now the question is, when they travel to Nigeria this Tuesday or Wednesday, definitely if they can force in a draw of goals, it means Swaziland can be through. So Nigeria also play under pressure. Okay. Should they get a draw of goals, definitely Swaziland are through to the second round.
Oh, okay. We won't dwell much on Nigeria, looking at the fact that there's not much to talk about. But you also spoke of another team that really did cause commotion in terms of football is concerned. Comoros drawing with the big team of West Africa, or the big team of Africa, Ghana. They held Ghana on a drawless goal, and this time around, of course, Ghana had big names in terms of their squad, because we saw the Ayew brothers, we saw the likes of Mubaraki Wakaso, but these guys, of course, they didn't manage to find the back of the net. Any post-mortem for them?
2 years ago, I was in Ghana, in Kumasi, Lansi, talking from experience.
Okay.
I watched that game between Zambia and Ghana. They decided which the winner was going to make through. I mean, to make it to the World Cup. Indeed, I traveled with the Chipolopolo. When you are playing Ghana in their own backyard,
Yes.
it's difficult. I don't think even Brazil can beat Ghana in their own backyard when they mean business.
Okay.
I feel sorry for Comoros at this point in time. They are going to be bashed with a big margin. I can assure you that when they travel to Ghana, the scores will be more than 3 goals, no doubt about it. And you can't lose Ghana at this point in time, because going to the World Cup, it's become part of them.
Okay.
The fans, the people in Ghana, they believe that Ghana, the World Cup, Ghana is a world-class team of Africa.
Okay.
So they feel there's no team which can deny Ghana. And most so if they take the game to Kumasi, they'll be lucky if they'll play in Accra, because I'm told in Accra, the atmosphere isn't good for them to play football there.
Okay.
But when they travel some kilometers away from Accra going to Kumasi, at that stadium where I witnessed Zambia, Ghana, I can assure you that Comoros, I think this time around, there'll be totally a lesson which they'll live to remember for many years to come in terms of football.
Okay. But looking at the highlights there, of course, we see Comoros being denied a goal due to an offside. Do you think that Comoros would still cause such a scare in terms of the Ghanaians when they play at home?
I don't think so. Some of these teams, or maybe the reason could have been why they're playing some good football. We don't know really the temperature in their countries. We don't know exactly. It affects some teams when you travel to some places. This world is different in the sense that some teams have failed to beat other teams because of maybe the temperatures. For instance, when you were playing in Sudan, I think Zambia really put up a good performance because that side is hot.
Okay.
And Peru, Venezuela, there we heard that Brazil have never recorded a win, because each time they travel to that part of the world, they find it very difficult to beat that team, because them they are used to that kind of. But yourself, you find it very difficult, even in terms of local football. Those teams that have traveled to go and play in Chilundu border area there, they were difficult to beat a team from Chilundu because of the temperature. So I feel this time around they're going to face the reality of football. The reality which they will live to remember for many years to come. Definitely, I can assure you that Ghana are through to the second round. I may not say I'm to the final round. Yes. Third round, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, okay. Away from that game, let us put our concern, of course, on the game between Niger and Cameroon, where we saw, of course, Cameroon bashing Niger 3 goals to 0, and it was quite a massive win, and I even really liked it a lot, looking at the fact that Mbia was part of the goal scorers. He recorded, he had managed to put his name on the score sheet on that night, and Cameroon, of course, them being the favorites in terms of that game, they even proved a point to say we really are the favorites, and we have managed to thrash Niger. Anything for the Niger when they travel to Cameroon? Do we see them coming back into the game and maybe manage to win and go to the third round of the World Cup qualifiers, or maybe it's bye-bye for them?
I think it's a bye-bye moment for them, reason being that Cameroon, this is one of the teams that I've mentioned that they know what it means to qualify for the World Cup. Okay. Players have promised a huge sum of money each time when they qualify for the World Cup. Ghana, Cameroon, Nigeria, if you give them chance and they progress through to the second round, and then you face them at that level, you find it very difficult to beat them.
Okay.
These are teams that are very difficult to beat. Apart from these 2 teams I've mentioned, you also, if you meet North African teams, it really becomes difficult to beat them during the World Cup qualifiers, because they really mean business. I feel sorry for Niger. I feel at this point in time they're just going to play for formality. There's no you expect Cameroon to concede their 3 goals and then miss out on the trip to 2018 Russia. No, I don't think so. I feel sorry for them.
Well, okay. Away from the Cameroonians, of course, we come to the game where we saw Kenya playing with the Cape Verde Islands, and this time around, of course, Kenya managed to win the famous Cape Verde, which has in the recent or in the past, when it came to when it was introduced in the sports fraternity, of course, it made Zambia to tarry here and there, of course, giving them much agony and pain in the back, but this time around we see, of course, them succumbing to a loss, of course, by Kenya, and Kenya so far the favorites of qualifying from Cape Verde. Do we see them coming back?
Of course, Kenya, they were at home playing in Nairobi.
Yes.
They're really a difficult team to beat. We saw even how Zambia struggled to beat Kenya. To defend maybe last 30 minutes under pressure, playing under pressure. But when they played there in Cape Verde, when they traveled to Cape Verde,
yes,
I saw Zambia losing with a full squad at Cape Verde 3-1. The almost best player that we can mention, like the likes of Fuayo Tembo, Sambalungu, Christopher Katongo, all these guys, Jau Mlenga, all these senior players were there, were available, but they were beaten that side. And when even they came here, we were struggling until young man Sate was to score that lone goal. So I feel the game is still on. Kenya, they really need to play an open game when they play in Cape Verde. They have to go to play an attacking football. If the coach applies defensive football, then they should be packing their bags that they are coming back home.
But let's take a look at the kind of play that Cape Verde uses, the kind of the tactics that they use. They are far much more better than Kenya, because we see Cape Verde, of course, using most of their wings. They use most the wings, and we see these guys who have been given that task of being in the wings. They do much more better. In fact, they are the best when it comes to putting the ball through inside the 18 area or the 16 area. Can Tunisia, do we see Kenya finding people who fill up those spaces or those places where it's a stronghold for Cape Verde?
I don't think so that Kenya will be able to stand the pressure, but it depends the formation that the coach is going to use against Cape Verde, because you know, a team that you intend to beat, definitely you expect Cape Verde to play an open game throughout attack to get a goal as quickly as possible.
Yes.
But by so doing, they will leave a lot of gaps at the back, which Kenya can capitalize on. So it's up to Kenya. If Kenya they relax and say, let's defend our goal, definitely it will be very difficult. Cape Verde, they've got great players like Mendes and they have the other colleagues that have took football by storm. And these guys have been playing Spanish football for many years. Most of these guys, they're playing Violent football in Spain.
Yes.
And we were talking about competitive football. Whilst for our friend Kenyan players, most of them, they're locally based players who play week in, week out. We see them on Go TV. And we feel they've got something to add, but not with the experience of Spanish football.
Well, okay. Aside from that, Mauritania, of course, they lost in the home ground to Tunisia, 2-1.
Mauritania, Tunisia, of course, it was a well-known fixture. These are the guys that have not even made it to the Africa Cup. They've been like underdogs of African football.
Okay.
They were together with Cape Verde and the Comoros Island a few years ago with the teams which were never used to qualify. Until Cape Verde, we saw that the president started promising them a huge sum of money. They brought in a coach who said, let me take the players to Spain and camp there for many months so that we can learn football. The coach even consulted Mourinho on a number of things. That's when you saw Cape Verde coming to the party, and they were really giving pressure to big teams. Comoros, so they are also the underdogs of African football a few years ago. When you told them a lesson under Dario Bonet, most of you remember them that this is a team that we beat at Ngoroma Stadium with a big margin. Also, we beat them in their own backyard. But this time around, of course, they've learned a few things. You talk about Mauritania. Mauritania is a team that never used to be associated with African football. Each time when you talk about whether Africa Cup or World Cup qualifier, they never even used it to make it to the Premier stage. But this time around, they are there in the Premier stage to show that they have something to offer. But they have to learn something at this point in time. Tunisia will not let them get a win.
Well, okay. Away from that, the most interesting game that we had, of course, during the week was the game between Liberia and Ivory Coast. The likes of Yaya Toure, and this time around, them being expected to record a massive win with a great margin of goals against this underdog team, because we know Liberia has never been recognized when it comes to the African Cup or the Africa football and anything to do with football. So we expected Ivory Coast to do better than this team and get a lot of goals, but it was quite unfortunate, or fortunate for them enough, that they managed to get a goal of which we saw Ivory Coast winning a goal 2-0. And they had, of course, their big names, or their players who play for these different leagues, more especially these who are in the European leagues. But this time around, we saw them failing to produce that kind of play which they show, of course, when they are in these European leagues.
Indeed, it was a local derby, West African affair, and I saw that Ivory Coast, they were difficulty to beat Liberia.
Okay.
We talk of Ivory Coast Ghana, Ivory Coast Cameroon, Ivory Coast Nigeria, Ivory Coast Liberia. It's always an interesting and difficult game to predict the winner.
Okay.
We saw the likes of Mali a few years ago denying some big names in terms of Western world football a few years ago a chance to progress to the second round.
Okay.
So I feel that at this point in time the game is not yet over, and this game was played in Liberia, meaning that they lost at home, Liberia. And if they play well, they play the card accordingly, they can also cause an upset against Ivory Coast. But Ivory Coast, as you have mentioned already, they've got great names that are currently dominating European football, and they are key players, most of them even at the various clubs in Europe.
Yes.
We talk of Czech Tiote. Czech Tiote is an outstanding player. Yaya Toure himself, Gervinho. All these players you are talking about, they are players that are currently commanding top position even in those top clubs in Europe. So we expect them to finish the game against Liberia, but they should do it carefully, because if they leave gaps, Liberia can still punish them. Most of the Liberia, they still bask in the name of George Weah, the player who played football for AC Milan and became the darling of many soccer fans, then went on to win the World Footballer of the Year. The only African player to have won the World Footballer of the Year.
Okay.
But he had difficulties to win the Africa Cup of Nations. He was able to take the team to the Africa Cup of Nations, but they were being eliminated at early stage.
Wow.
So this time around, I feel that they have to do something for for George Weah by beating Ivory Coast. Of course, when you want to get to the World Cup, you have to beat the best. That's what Zambia did when they played at the 2012 Africa Cup of Nations. They have to beat the best to win the Africa Cup of Nations. So for Liberia, it's a huge task that if they beat Ivory Coast, they are assured of going through to Lasha and represent the continent.
Well, okay. Another exciting game that we had was the game between Gabon and Mozambique. Of course, we saw in the first leg. This is the team that has played both two legs. In the first leg, of course, when Mozambique was home, we saw Mozambique, of course, managing to record a win against Gabon when they were in their hometown. And then this time around, yesterday, when the game was being played, of course, in Gabon, we saw Gabon taking up the lead, or being able to come back and, of course, score that long goal, which we saw through to 90 minutes. And then, since on aggregate it was 1-1, after 90 minutes they were given another 30 minutes to play in terms of extra time. After extra time it was still 1-0, and on aggregate it was still 1-1. And the decider was put on penalties, where we saw of Gabon winning on penalties 4-3, and the key players for Mozambique were the ones who missed these penalties, the spot kicks, and Gabon has been confirmed to have gone to the next round, or the third round of the World Cup qualifiers. Any praises for the coach?
Of course, indeed, Gabon have been one of the most interesting teams in African football for the past few years. And if you talk of Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, the player was taking football by storm with Borussia Dortmund in Germany. Of course, he's been one of the dying players when it comes to such games, and I feel it was a huge mountain for Mozambique. But Mozambique of late, they've been playing good football. Dominic Mpelembe, I think, is grown up, is matured. He's supposed to take things serious now. You remember when they had the Tico a few years ago, Tico was really fighting for Mozambique. Each time when Mozambique were down, Tico take it personal. I feel Mpelembe was to blame. He's the same guy that missed a penalty against Zambia.
Okay.
That miss gave Zambia the courage to beat them 1-0 at their own backyard to qualify for last Africa Cup of Nations. So I feel that some players, they have to learn from their legend.
Okay.
We do not have such players in most of these countries. Like here in Zambia, we do not have such players like Kalusha. Kalusha would take it personal when the things were not really working out.
Okay.
We only think and trust that Wilson Kalengo will take up that challenge and say, let me take it personal when things are not working, like what he did yesterday, where we saw him racing, going towards the goal mouth after that defender, blundered. And he went on to beat the last man, and he scored the classic goal, which I'm sure many of fans will live to remember for many years to come. So same for these guys feel that they have to take it personal.
Okay.
Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has been outstanding both for the club Dortmund as well as Gabon.
Okay.
So we need such players who will be able to represent the country as well as the club. We don't have such players at this point in time. There are few in these countries. When they sink it, when the ship is sinking, they sink together the ship. They have to play a role of a captain of Marvel, such as Zinedine Zidane. When France were in trouble, Zidane would take it personal, and we saw him taking France back to the second round or to the third round of the each and every championship they've been involved. After Zidane retirement, we saw that France, they were like enkuku janawapaya yasiatulana metwana tuswa koenda. So it was really sad for French football. The retirement of Zidane meant the end of French football, which is bad.
But right now it has resurrected with the likes of Anthony Martial and Olivier Giroud. Well, let's go on a very short break, and we'll be back after the break. Don't go away. Welcome back, and indeed we've kept our word. We just went on a very short break, and it's glad to be back in your living rooms again, and we continue talking sports in the remaining 5 minutes. This time around we'll put our attention, of course, to the game that Zambia played with Sudan, both the home and away game. Of course, I know you were anxious, wanting to listen or wanting to know what had happened, or what happened in terms of the matches that Zambia had played, and I deliberately wanted us to start with these other games before we came to Zambia, because everybody else was itching, wanting to know how Zambia fared in the both games. Mr. Ludaka, Zambia went to Sudan, and they recorded their first ever win against Sudan, and I remember in the previous weeks you've been talking about it, that Zambia has never ever managed to beat Sudan in their home ground. But this time around, of course, we see a twist of things, Zambia managing to beat Sudan in their home ground.
Indeed, it was a sweet victory for us Zambians. This one being that it's been a trip that most of us wouldn't love to. And each time when Zambia were paired with Sudan at previous World Cup qualifiers, we felt FIFA, rather CAF, they were not fair for us, because when you look at the track record, you see that the teams were beaten with big margins in Sudan. You remember the Kalusha Intake, they were beaten 2-0 until they reversed the fixture at Independence Stadium 3-0.
Okay.
We saw the Katongo brothers also failing to beat Sudan with they lost with a big margin, and they failed also to beat Sudan here when they were held to 1-0 draw.
Okay.
So it was a sweet victory, because Sudanese were like a thorn in our game plan to play at the World Cup. Now
Okay.
this time around, having eliminated them with 100% record, it should give us a more advantage and more confidence to say, I think we should be heading to Russia. I
Well,
would love to see Zambia qualified for the World Cup before, maybe not say I die, but, but before maybe I retire
before you
from
retire.
issues to do with football.
Well, okay. Let's get into the post-mortem of the game. In the first half, Zambia was dominating in terms of possession, passes, ball touches, everything. Zambia was everywhere. They were in the center, left, right, front, back, wing, everywhere. And then when it came to the second half, of course, we saw Zambia lapsing behind and giving the chance to Sudan, attacking every now and then. What do you think could have happened to the team? Do you think that when they went on a break, Chicken George Rwandamina had told the team to just relax and sit back and defend, or what?
It has worked for him, but it's dangerous at this point in time.
Is that what he did, or maybe it was part of the strategy?
It's what he did, because we've seen twice now,
Okay.
in the games that are very important for the Africa Cup as well as for the World Cup.
Okay.
Against Kenya, we played some good football.
Mm-hmm.
I played Kenya during the first 20 minutes.
Okay.
We managed to get the quick goals, the early goals, and then we killed the game, which gave Zambia a chance now that they should have played better football after that. But they packed the bus and they were to play under pressure throughout 90 minutes and throughout the many minutes, which is bad.
Okay.
Against Sudan, it was the same thing. Zambia were attacking, they were playing some good football. Immediately after we scored the goal, we saw Zambia packing the bus, and Lili Mwene and Sophia Sons worked out measures that day, because we had a number of chances that they created, the Sudanese, but luck wasn't there. It wasn't on their side, because they couldn't hit the target. They were off target on most of the occasions. So I feel that that is what worked to our advantage. But next time we'll get punished. So I mean, has to change the mentality of the game approach. I mean, I'm not happy with it. I'm happy that we have beaten Sudan. We are through the second round, but I'm not happy with a few things that still George is still sticking into. One of the areas that he doesn't like playing open football throughout 90 minutes.
Okay.
Now, when you play teams like Ivory Coast, Ghana, just mention a few, definitely you get punished. They will not allow just you to score one goal and then you get away with it.
Yes.
They will come back and hit back at you and find a winning goal. You realize when the game is over.
Okay, that's quite interesting there, meaning that our very own Chicken George Rwandamina uses the same strategy that Mourinho uses, packing the bus, and it should be a Tata bus because it's the only one that is hard. Well, coming back home, Zambia managed to beat Sudan 2-0, and it was through Winston Kalingo, again the striker who had scored when we went to Sudan, and this time around again he managed to put up another good performance and managed to score. Although the first goal was through Luambo Msonda and assisted by our very own very good striker Collins Mbesuma, when he had struck that corner, it been rebounding, and then Musonda of course had found the back of the net.
Indeed, great thanks to Collins Mbesuma. He has continued to inspire the young guys. He has continued to inspire the country at large. Zambian football had gone down. Zambian football was not climbing on FIFA ranking. But since his return to the Chipolopolo squad, we have seen that he has added a lot in terms of football. He is given the players courage that they can play football. This team without Mbesuma's presence, I'm telling the truth that they're not going to match the pressure that we've had before now. Zambia were really side that was being beaten by small teams. Namibia, Malawi beat us recently. But the arrival of Mbesuma has really changed a lot of things, Lancy. There's no doubt about it that he's a motivational factor for the Zambian football. And we need him. We need him for a few more years. Okay. Because these coaches like dropping him. They drop him without even proper reason. You look at most of the time when he was left out of the team, I could not even tell why he was dropped.
Okay.
Could not tell.
Well, okay, Mr. Ludaka, we've run out of time, and we have to say our bye-byes, but just a quick one, as you are saying your bye-byes, Renford Calabar wasn't able to feature on this second game, where we saw him, of course, suffering to, he had fallen ill he had malaria and didn't manage to take part in this team. Do you think that his absence is the one that led Zambia to record such a very good win this time around?
I wouldn't say that. He didn't play well when he played in Sudan. He has to pull up his socks, but I feel there's a lot of replacement for Lemford Kalawai in our proposed squad now.
Okay.
You talk of Luambo himself, can play some good football, Charles Zulu. There are quite a number of interesting young players who will be able to take up the role and play the similar football that Kalawa can produce.
Wow.
The only worry is midfield. I'm not sure about the midfield who is going to play a better football for us, because all I see Rwanda is using two anchor midfielders who are defensive midfielders. I don't know the number 8 for Zambia, and I do not have the number 8.
Well, okay, Mr. Ludaka, thank you very much for that wonderful analysis. And viewers, we've come to the end of Sportslife's edition of Monday, where we were talking about African football and the qualifiers for the World Cup. Do make sure to join us on Wednesday again at the same time, 17 hours here on CBC Television, as we will bring you more of the updates or in terms of the games that will be played today and tomorrow concerning the same World Cup qualifiers in terms of the African teams. From me and my colleague Godfrey Ludaka, it's bye-bye. See you on Wednesday.